Yes. Sycamore flag, yeah.
I have a microphone, so my voice isn't as strong as it used to be. I joined the Sycamore, Illinois Club after I was back there 5 years. It takes them that long to accept a Californian back in the Midwest. So I finally got in there, but of course the first job I got was newsletter editor, which I'm still doing. And I'm also the cleanup guy, take down all the flags and podiums and put that stuff away. I'm the oldest guy in the club, just about. I'm sitting at the OF table today. I added up the ages, 713 years. That's great. That's great. Anyway, here's the banner, and I also have a souvenir from the fair because I'm the official printer every year at the Alameda County Fair, and this is bookmark #1 for 2014, all autographed by the printer and dated for you, President Phil. Thank you. I'm really glad to be back. We always come back, Kay and I do, for 2 weeks to print at the fair because I run the antique press in the building G back there. And we've had a really unusual year. We had 72 inches of snow in northern Illinois. Normally have 45 inches, and we also had 21 days of below zero weather. And so why the hell did I ever leave Illinois? I hear you're a pretty wimpy finer. Back there we pay $5 fines, and then they just raised the meal price from $7 to $8, and we nearly had a mass resignation over that. It's a little cheaper in Illinois.
One announcement, the rodeo. Oh, another one. Okay, Stacy.
Another one. It's my pleasure to introduce Ivan Morse from the Downtown Pleasanton Rotary Club, and his designation is barrister, which is a very elegant name for attorney. So welcome.
Welcome, Ivan.
You have to be called to the bar.
My side.
Don't call it out.
Hello. I'm very pleased to introduce Cecilia Babkirk, who is with the Cupertino Club, and she is Coast Residential Funding Specialist.
I am very honored to introduce to you Angie Hassler, our district governor, who is a member of the Almond Valley Club. Give her a good.
All right. Well, the guest or Rotarians, please stand. We have guests.
Right here, sir. President Phil, fellow Rotarians and guest Rotarians, I'm very excited today. As many of you know, I'm the club's, the District Youth Exchange Chair, and our club is hosting a student this year, and we're sending a student this year. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to Mariah Mathit. She is going to be traveling to Italy, the northern part. And in exchange, we're going to have a young man from Verona come to stay with us. So please give a nice welcome to Mariah.
Buongiorno.
All right, I'm going to turn the microphone over for a few minutes to Angie Hassler, who has something to say.
Thank you, President Phil. I always enjoy coming out to the valley, from one valley to the other, Almaden Valley to Livermore Valley. It was about 20 degrees warmer here than it was at home, so anyway. I wanted to personally thank you for the year that you have had this past year, all the good things that you have done. And Phil, thank you for leading the ship. I saw your picture in the spur. They're walking you off the plank. I don't know who did that. They're all tied up and ready to walk the plank. This was the first year that membership and foundation goals had to be input online. Those of you who've been past presidents and past secretaries and past membership chairs and past foundation chairs, you didn't have to fill out a piece of paper this year. You had to do it all online. And President Ron Burton wanted to recognize the clubs that did that, and yours was one of them. So I'm pleased to present to Phil the Rotary Club Central Award.
Hang in there, hang in there.
And because of all your hard work this year, you have also earned the Presidential Citation. Now, this is not Phil's citation, even though he is the president. This is a citation from Rotary International President Ron Burton to each and every one of you, again, for all the good work that you did this year. And so it's my honor on behalf of, you can't sit down, or my honor on behalf of President Ron Burton to present the Presidential Citation to you, all of you. And not only the citation, but it was done with distinction, so you have a patch to put on your banner. So congratulations to all of you. Bill?
Bill, up there.
Bill, come on.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime here. Thank you. Great.
We reviewed your legacy when I spoke to you, and you have a marvelous legacy. And all those stories, I hope you were able to remember and share to encourage folks to join Rotary and to renew your spirit in Rotary. So I want you to reflect on the stories that you have added this year to your legacy. And I want you to think about all the people in the world that have been helped by the Livermore Rotary Club that you will never know, and the stories that they have to share on how their life has been bettered because of your efforts. I congratulate you. Thank you. I would like to recognize someone who's done a lot of work on the district, Yvonne Hopkins. As you know, this Youth Exchange. I have a small token of my appreciation for your work on the district level.
Hey, lady. Got it.
That's right. And Phil, a small token of my appreciation because of the great job you did as president this year.
Is Bruce Wiggs here? Yeah, come up here, please, Bruce. It's not trouble, believe me. I have for you, Bruce, a multiple Paul Harris Fellow pin. It's a Paul Harris Fellow +3. Thank you.
Sure. We got nothing else to do today. Just take pictures. There we go. Thank you.
While we're talking about the foundation, I want to give you a little information. This club is number 8 in the district in the number of members, but we're 3rd in donations with over $40,000, and we're not in 2nd by $1,000. That's it, out of 42. We're 1st in donations to Polio Plus by quite a bit, and we're 2nd in overall donations to the Rotary Foundation with over $56,000. That's quite an accomplishment, I think. Also, today, I received another $1,000 donation to the foundation from a club member. That's a Paul Harris Society member, and he's number 25 from this club. And that makes this club #1 in the district in number of Paul Harris Society members. And also another outcome of that is we're 18.9% of the members in this club are members of the Paul Harris Society. And that means on the average, each table you're sitting in, there are probably 2 Paul Harris Society members at that table. And I don't think any other club can say that. That's pretty good. Okay, we have some new member talks. Alex Lee.
Oh, Alex.
Thank you. Testing. Wow, what an honor to speak in front of such accomplished individuals here. I've only lived 22 years, so there's not much I can compare to any of you. So instead, I want to tell you a meaningful story about why I think the ways I think and why I dream the things I dream. There's an ancient Chinese quote that talks about success, which is dependent on 3 things: the right place, the right time, and being the right people. Afterwards, luck, total and absolute luck, which aligns these 3 divine elements together to create opportunity for the dreamer. However, the dreamer must recognize opportunity, but also make the most of this chance. I am a dreamer, and one of my dreams is to tell mom and dad, I love you. My father, a refugee from the Vietnam War, my mother from the Maoist regime, they were forced to come to America, not by choice, but because of the turmoil in their country. They were destined to start in menial work because they were non-native English speakers. They didn't know a single word of English. And so to see them now speaking some English is amazing. However, my parents, all they cared about was to sacrifice everything for me, the next generation. They were very grateful, and most of all, their attitude was resilient, because anything that happened in America was far better than everything that happened in their own motherland. As a result, growing up in Seattle, in South Seattle actually, in Kent, my brother and I, we were cradled, nursed, and reared in the stimulating school of poverty. I've worked countless hours since I was in 3rd grade with the family business. We do import-export with China, packaging, manual labor, everything. That was the norm. At the same time, my father raised me to be very disciplined because he said education is the most important thing. Doing well in school was not a choice, it was a must, because education is something no one can take away from you. However, like many Asian Americans, this resulted in many emotional and physical consequences that my parents did not see. And growing up in American culture, while balancing the Eastern styles of discipline, learning, and the abstract concept of culture, it made many kids, including me, Asian American kids, very high achieving, but emotionally distant, and eventually relentless, ambitious teenagers, but very insecure and not sure what they wanted to do. It wasn't until I got into Stanford University that my father told me one thing before I flew on the airplane to start freshman year. He told me, this world is a very unforgiving and harsh reality. If a superior or a boss beats you, they beat you like an animal. It's because they hate you. If I beat you, it's because you're my son. Now, these words have haunted me ever since freshman year. And to this day, I've never been able to show direct compassion for my father, because this powerful and indirect way of showing love is very traditional, but this is how the Chinese culture works. Now, outside of the household, in Kent School District, the standard of education was fairly low. About one of the highest crime rates in Seattle, and this was challenging. You're trying to balance both academics and social life, not understanding how you navigate this idea of where your parents constantly say education is the most important thing, and where your friends, 10 years later, they're actually in jail. So that was the battle I had in high school. At the same time, I had the finest teachers, coaches, and mentors. One of them actually, when I participated in RILA, was a Rotarian by the name of Mark Steelkeist, and he embodied true service beyond self. For several years, he would take a group of kids from impoverished backgrounds and take them to outdoor activities they could never dreamed of. White water rafting, hiking Mount Rainier. These are just simple activities that you guys may do on a casual basis, but for us, we could never have done that. And these activities allowed us to see the world in a different way and allowed us to feel optimistic. And this is precisely why I wanted to continue being part of Rotary. This club truly makes a difference. And without the financial and mental prowess of all you Rotarians, not only that, but the time, energy, and most of all, empathy, all of you have made a difference in my life. When we strip away all the luck and privileges that made us who we are today, we begin to consider and see things a little better when we look at a kid who is poor and lost and say, that could have been me. That is empathy. Empathy tears down barriers and opens up new frontiers for optimism. So nothing I say or do can show how grateful I am for Rotary. And I am a product of Rotary, and Rotary is just the first step to giving back. Right now, I am living my dream. I love my job at Costco. And 2 years ago, if you asked me would I have worked for Costco, no, I would have been probably in investment banking. And here I am, all of a sudden in retail, and I know my future is as bright as ever. And most of all, I can make a difference in my own community. So now I want to say one thank you note to all the teachers. You all truly make a big difference. I just remember when I was in elementary school, I would hang out with teachers instead of recess or lunch because they believed in me. They challenged me to be better. I remember in college, professors, instead of hanging out or partying outside, I would just sit down with professors and they would challenge how I think. And so for all the teachers, you may not remember every student that you teach, but every student that you do teach, they remember you. And for all the mentors, sometimes, actually often, your mentees are quite naive, but we will eventually wake up and be very grateful that one day we can thank you that you told us early. And lastly, to my parents, I hope to authentically say to them before they go to heaven, Mama, Baba, 我爱你. Mom and Dad, I love you. Thank you.
And now we have a new member talk from Alberto.
Thanks, Alex.
Doesn't look like you're teaching today.
No. Thank you very much. Alex, I think you'll appreciate this one. So, just a little bit of background of myself. You may or may not have heard that this is my second year at Livermore High School. I'm originally from Union City, and I worked at New Haven Unified, and I spent 17 years of my career there as a teacher, soccer coach, and principal of the middle school. And so before coming to Livermore, I knew nothing of the valley. I knew nothing of the community. I knew nothing of ranching families. I knew nothing of what was happening here in Livermore. So in order for me to really understand Livermore and Livermore High School was to conduct home visits. And so what I had done is I set up a series of home visits during the summer of me arriving to Livermore High School, meeting with multiple families at their home. And simply I just threw out the one question: what are you most proud of? And from there, we started a rich dialogue about all the things and all the traditions that are happening at Livermore High School. I learned a great deal about some things that I should never, never, never change, right? There are some things that probably need some changing, or some updating, some refreshing. Kids were also part of these home visits, and so it allowed me to kind of get a perspective from what they cared about. And they cared about the culture and climate, and school spirit, and school pride. They also cared about their school. It is pretty historic, and I use that term loosely because it does need some modernization. And so in one of my visits I did, and here's kind of like what the real give backs I can immediately make an impact during from those visits is the kids were telling me, and mostly the girls were saying, you know what, the bathrooms are horrible. You know, the doors don't even lock. And that troubled me because why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they care about their school, you know, enough to say, hey, these bathrooms are horrible. Please fix them. And they said nobody would listen. Why listen? That following day, I met with the custodians. I said, every bathroom, doors, the hinges are fixed, the locks are replaced, and in fact, let's put a new coat of paint in there. So come walk through, I ran into the young lady and I said, hey, do me a favor, check out the bathrooms. She came back, she gave me a hug. And then weeks went by, and I saw her again, and she says, hey, Mr. Solarzano, guess what? They even smell great now. So during that time, I got to learn a lot about Livermore High School. So after 1 year being principal, I then met with many ninth grade families. And so families who were sending ninth graders on to Livermore High School, I met with families around, you know, what are the myths that you hear, right, that freshmen go through. And so we had a nice dialogue about, you know, how can we make sure that the myths are not true, right? And so this coming year, this summer, I will be doing more home visits, and this time I'll be targeting first generation high school students. So this is their first ever high school student that they're sending to Livermore High School, and again, kind of erasing some of those myths. So it should be fun, and I've had a fantastic time being principal at Livermore High School. I'm now moving on to my junior year. So I kind of want to share with you some things that I guess as principal, you know, you get to make your impact on so many areas. And so one of the things I like to pay, you know, particular attention to is the culture and climate of our school. And so, so in addition to preparing students to think critically and prepare them for college, you know, I want them to also pay attention to their character. And a person with good character, you know, is someone we can admire. A person with good character sets a good example for everyone, and basically makes the world a better place. So, you know, every morning I try to come on to the morning announcements and share kind of words of wisdom. And some of the things that I talk about are integrity, trustworthiness, and love. This one's for you, Alex. So, integrity. I want our kids to stand up for what they believe. I want them to follow their hearts. And I want them to live by their principles no matter what others say. And now as young people, that one's hard to do, because there will be naysayers, and some people's words may hurt. But if they believe in what they stand for, and if it adds value to the greater whole, then naysayers can go on being bitter and sour, or they can join you and follow your lead. You know, Oprah, I think she has a pretty nice quote, and it says, you know, real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not. Trustworthiness. I want kids to tell the truth. I think as parents, we also want our kids to tell us the truth as well. Don't hide things from the people you love, you know, and stand behind your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. I often tell kids, if you say you're going to do something, do it. I want them to be open and forthright. I want them to be candid. Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Successful People, once said, trust is the glue of life. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication. It's the foundational principle that holds all relationships. And the last thing, it's a quirky little saying that I have with kids, and I started last year, and I talk about love. And love isn't necessarily all about romance, right? Love is affection for those you depend on and who depend on you, like your family, your friends, your teammates, colleagues. Love, it's that powerful force, and it can be linked to good health and longevity. And so I share with these kids that I want them to be compassionate and empathetic, and I want them to share the love with everyone else, not only with people, but for the school. Take pride in your school. Pick up your trash, right? Because you love your school that much, you're not going to leave it dirty, right? So love is kind of a wonderful attribute, and when it's used well, it can be a tremendous asset. So I finish every morning announcements with, don't forget to tell someone you love them. That's my talk.
All right, and now we're going to have another new member talk. David Muellenhoff. David's here. There he is. Oh.
How do you follow both of those? I think one of the things that that's always been uppermost in my mind is service. And in my case, even with everything else I've done in my life, I still put Eagle Scout at the top of my resume. It's at the top of all my profiles. It's something I'm not proud of necessarily, but it's because I think it's a useful way for people to see the content of some of my character, at least. And in fact, I carry still this challenge coin that I got when I was 12 years old. And it's got a Boy Scout logo on one side, but on the other side it says, secretly, and secretly is the key, transfer me from your left pocket to your right pocket when you've done your good turn for the day. So I still do that. And I hope that that's part of what Millie saw in me and TJ when they asked me to join Rotary. I'd known Millie now, I think, for close to 10 years through her work at Tri-Valley Housing and seeing the service she did. And so it's been a great honor for me to be in Rotary and to see all of the amazing people who are here and just learn about all the contributions you've done over your lives. There's just so much in this room that it's just amazing to me still. In my case, just a little bit of, just backing up a bit, I was born on the year, in the year men walked on the moon, which I think some of you may remember. I didn't. I was in an incubator for the first 6 weeks of my life due to some health problems my mom had. And my wife says that explains an awful lot about my personality, not having any human touch for the first 6 weeks. But one of the things that that I know that came about with that was I have a really solid, comfortable feeling being alone and quiet and focused. And you'll see that when my wife and I are out, because we're similar personalities in that way. Our favorite thing is to go out and eat in one of Livermore's restaurants, and we'll just sit there each reading a book quietly. And we've had friends and servers even who know us from seeing us. You guys okay? Something wrong? No, this is what we like to do. We're sharing our experience together, but we're still doing our own thing. And in my wife's case, she's comfortable that way because she grew up one of 12. And she was, it was a noisy household. It was a poverty-stricken household. She was a field worker, illegal child labor, down in Central Valley, along with all of her siblings for most of the first part of her life. She ended up leaving her family as a single mom to go to UC Davis, first in her family to go to college, as were my parents. and raised her kid, and that's where I met her, and it's just been great ever since. We're both each other's heroes, and I think the big thing with that is we both have certain qualities of character that we find complementary and that we admire in each other. And in my own case, my first encounter with Livermore was when I was attending UC Berkeley, and I needed a job, and my uncle was running a iron rebar plant that's still there out on Vasco Road, so okay, down I went. And so I worked summers on the line in the factory, driving trucks full of rebar all around the Bay Area. But the thing was, I had grown up in Oregon, and so to me, 85 degrees at 3 in the morning was the very definition of hell. And so I vowed at the age of 19, if I ever settled in California, it was not going to be in Livermore. Ended up graduating, got my first job at the VA over in Martinez, and that taught me two things. It taught me a lifelong distrust and dislike of government bureaucracy. And it also taught me that people can change. And seeing the horrible things that that bureaucracy did to the people it was supposed to serve, and to the employees who worked there over time and changed in very bad ways, really taught me a lesson. So I didn't go in the public sector, I went into the private sector. And I ended up met my wife at a litigation support company up in Davis after law school. And that let me meet my wife. It also let me indulge my love of fast cars. I still have a personal record of 60 minutes flat from the front door of the Attorney General's office in Sacramento to 101 California in downtown San Francisco. I was delivering some documents that had to be there. And I am told, I interned briefly in Sacramento, and I'm told that beats Speaker Willie Brown's personal time that he would do rather routinely in his Corvette, commuting up to Sac. But anyway, I don't do that anymore, of course. So anyway, we met, we raised our daughter, everything was fine. We ended up coming down to San Francisco and then ended up in Livermore working for a couple of nonprofit companies. Again, still in the private sector, but enabling me to indulge my desire to serve. And so we have two nonprofit counseling agencies here in Livermore. One's sort of a startup that we're rebuilding, but they're both thriving, they're doing well, and we've helped thousands and thousands of people get out of being over their heads in debt and feel good about it. We're actually starting to move into student loans because there's a gigantic problem there. And I don't know if you all know this, but something like 80% of the student loan debt that is out there, that is owed, has yet to mature. That is, it has yet to come due. So it's a tidal wave, and it's going to have a gigantic effect on our economy if it's not handled. Anyway, so being in Livermore, I've ended up being able to serve in other ways. I've been on the Livermore Housing Authority board for some time, currently serving as chair. Been working with Millie with Tri-Valley Housing for a while, and now I'm vice chair of that. Served on the ACO-CAP board with Alameda County. And I'm always looking for new ways to serve. And President Phil was kind enough to ask me to serve to try and stand up the rave section of Livermore Rotary again. And so we're working on that, and I think we're going to have some good things here coming up, and you'll hear from me about that as well. If anyone wants to join the rave board, or rave committee, I'm sorry, talk to me. So, in closing, I'm just honored to be here and honored to be among you, and looking forward to meeting more and more of you and learning more about you.
You might have noticed that I've been trying to get all of the new member talks in before my term ends, and I'm short one, so the one will have to be made next month. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Comely Bank. I mentioned this sometimes back. Comely Bank was the home of Gene and Paul Harris, in the south of Chicago. They lived there for quite a while. I got a letter recently from President of RI, Ron Burton, saying that this house is actually become in sad shape. It's changed hands several times, I guess, and it needs a lot of work. And actually, a nonprofit corporation called the Paul and Jean Harris Home Foundation was established by a group of people who purchased this house with their own money. And the idea was to refurbish it and make it available to Rotarians who are visiting headquarters in Chicago. To fully restore the home, landscape the property, and establish an endowment to provide an income stream to defray maintenance costs is a $5 million project. President Ron has asked that those clubs who can afford to do so, please donate $1,000 to this foundation to help this project along. And the board of directors agreed with President Burton, and this club has made such a donation. I just wanted you to know that. Some of you have heard about David Lowell, I guess. David Lowell passed away last week. Past president of this club, actually had a position within the district, did a lot of work for the district. There will be a service for David on Sunday, the 22nd of June at 4 o'clock at the First Presbyterian Church. All right, I would like all of the current board members to come up here. You all should know who you are. We're been working hard all year.
Kind of scary.
These are the people who are really responsible for this club operating the great way it has during the past year. Now, what I have a small token of my thanks for each of these directors. I'd like to come by and I will give you one.
You want a picture first?
After we get our stuff, we do a picture.
Come on over, Millie. Picture.
Okay, picture. Cheese.
Okay. Irv, you're hiding.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Barbara.
Smile.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Ralph. For you, thank you. Yvonne, thank you.
We need like pomp and circumstance.
Paul, thank you.
You always have to one up me, you know?
I did, yeah.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Irv. Great job. And can't forget Barbara. Thank you, Barbara.
You guys want to see what it is?
Just you.
Hey, Phil,
That's really beautiful.
can I present you with a flag?
Sure.
Hi, everybody. I recently went to Australia to the RI convention. I recommend it highly. If you haven't been to a convention, this is my first convention. Awesome experience. It's amazing to see what 18,000 Rotarians can do in one room. It's pretty cool. But while we were there, we took a side tour and we went to the little city of Central Blue Mountains in the city of Lura in the Central Blue Mountains, and had a makeup, Barbara did a makeup at this committee, at this meeting. So this is for you, for the club. And then they had a program that was their poet laureate, and he's kind of a, Aussies are a little different. And I purchased this for you. His name is Gregory North, and he goes Frackin' Fricker. So, but it's great original poetry, and I think you'll love it.
Thank you. Also, there are a number of people that are responsible for the smooth way that these meetings run. I'd like to make sure you're aware of them all. For example, Laura Mercier is in charge of Thought of the Day. So she's the one who arranges for that speaker each week. Bruce Shore arranges for the Spur reporters, and he's also, of course, a greeter. Mal Runge arranges for both the photographers and the video. John Severaria for the room setup. You know that John is an officer of this club. He's the sergeant at arms. Red Badgers, Mike Morgan manages those. John Shirley, membership retention. Irv, Don Wentz, and Sheila all together manage the microphones. You're aware now that we actually have 4 microphones in use. John Gordon is our Spur publisher, has been for many years. Kathy Coyle is our website manager. Debbie Peck selling tickets for us every time we have a major event. So I want to honor all of those people, please. A round of applause. Thank you. Also, there are a number of people in this club who, from time to time, give me suggestions for things to do. I don't promise to always adopt them, but I have adopted many of them, and I'm thankful for them for making the effort to suggest things for me. Finally, we have time. I have received a letter from the Quantichem Foundation. You're aware of Quantichem? Do you have that picture? And I got a letter from this lady, Lila Cabrera. She's been working for 20 years in Quantichem, and she's in charge of patients' medical records. Through her perseverance, integrity, and resilience, Lily has been a great motivational example for the burn children, helping them to overcome adversity. Lily says, "My brother and I were alone at home when the paraffin heater turned over, starting a fire. She was 19 months old. Her face, scalp, hands, and feet got burned, and she suffered the amputation of toes and fingers. Went through the surgical procedures and a long rehabilitation process. She actually lived in the hospital." And you see what's happened now. She works for the foundation for Quantichem. And she says, "Today I would like to thank the sponsors of the Burn Children of Quantichem. Thanks to your help, they receive rehabilitation treatment and education, along with emotional and spiritual support. This is the kind of treatment I would like every child to have, so they can live a happy and fulfilling life. Your commitment and generosity make Quantichem's achievements possible." This is a picture of Martin. He's one of 2 children. This club sponsors 2 children for 1 year, so they're supported entirely, education, meals, medical service, everything. We support 2 children for a year, and I think that's terrific for us. I'm glad we're doing it. That's all the formal part of this program. So now, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask any of these directors? Or me, I'm a director also. So you can ask me anything you want. Oh, yes. Do have a couple of announcers that got added, and I almost forgot them. Barbara reminded me. Ralph Sherman.
Well, a week from tonight, this evening, we'll all be enjoying fun, and food. It's the final, well, there's only one demotion a year. And this will be a way that we can have a good time with President Phil. There'll be 2 roasts, one with Sam Steele's delicious picnic kind of a dinner, and the roast of our president in a fun way, and we're just going to call this either hilarious or philarious. So get your tickets as soon as you can. Debbie's back there. We'll be meeting at the barn a week from tonight, and things start around 5:30. Don't want to have anybody miss a really good time.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm sure it's going to be fun for all of you. I'm not so sure about me. Ken, would you give the microphone to Tim Weaver?
Playing musical microphones. On the back table, I left 100 2-for-1 fare tickets. Unlike Jackie that used to put them in an envelope and give them to you, I was a little late today. But if you would please, if you care to go to the fair, it's a wonderful fair this year. There's a lot of new things there. Starts today, runs through July 6th. There's 2-for-1 tickets back there. Take them, give them to kids, give them to your church. Let's use them up, and if you need some more, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Excuse me, everybody. One last thing. We'd all like to sing. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear.
Back to questions. Anyone have a question they'd ask? Like to ask? Anyone like to tell us about a really neat thing they've done? Yes, Marty.
I have something, since you have some time that might be of interest. I have been following the saga of the Triple Crown race this year and the conduct of California Chrome's owner, co-owner Steve Colburn. And if any of you got to see the Belmont Stakes race and his tirade after the race where it wasn't fair that the horse that won didn't race in the Kentucky Derby and Preakness, and that his owner was a coward. It was horrible, the things he said. And the things I wanted to share with you about the Triple Crown is that not every horse can run in the Kentucky Derby. They only allow 20 entries, and they have to be nominated in January. And every year, 6,000 horses are nominated by their owners, but as through the year goes by, if they didn't do well in those races, then they don't become eligible. And those horses have to have won or placed in some major races to be eligible for the Kentucky Derby. The horse that won the Belmont only raced twice all year, but happened to win a race on May 10th called the Peter Pan Stakes at Belmont, and that's what made Tunnelist eligible to race in the Belmont. And just a freak that the horse won and that Mr. Colburn's horse took second. But the interesting thing about that is that the owner of Tunnelist, his father owned a horse that in 1981 that was named Pleasant Colony, won the Kentucky Derby and won the Preakness, and then in the Belmont Stakes finished third. So his father was denied the chance of having a Triple Crown winner. The difference between his father and Steve Colbert is his father quietly got in his car and drove home. And Colburn is still ranting about that he wants to change the way the Triple Crown is structured, and I think he's wrong. It's been going on that way for 100 years. 11 horses have done it. And the other interesting fact, that had Secretariat been in that race, the great Secretariat that won by 31 lengths in 1973, and still holds the track record for all the Triple Crown races, Secretariat would have beat Tunnelist by 22 lengths. That's how amazing Secretariat was. But Secretariat as a sire, he sired 600 foals, and not one of them won the Kentucky Derby, and only one won the Preakness and one won the Belmont. And his breeding stud fee 40 years ago was $125,000. So sometimes the love lines don't always come through. And even the great Secretariat, after the Belmont, got beat twice in 2 races afterwards. So I thought if we had some time, I'd share this stuff that I've been looking on the internet. And I find it interesting, and I think Mr. Colburn ought to be ashamed of himself for the disgraceful way he's conducted himself.
Thank you, Marty. Anybody else? If not, I think I will read you three numbers. These three numbers are 9, 7, 0. All right, Ken.